Hello and a very good morning to everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the SgGeoFest 2021. We are going to start this morning's session with the team from Mapbox. So Mapbox will be talking about building world-class navigation products for Asia Pacific. So together with us, we have Ben Trusello from Mapbox. Without further ado, I will hand over the webinar presentation over to Ben, who will introduce to the rest of his teammates. Over to you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Azar, and thanks again to the GeoWorks folks for inviting us for the second year in a row to attend the festival. We're excited to talk a bit about Mapbox in APAC and about our products, especially our navigation products. Joining me today, a couple of folks from our US team, Garrett Miller, who is our GM of navigation. So he helps to bring all of our navigation products to market across logistics, consumer, and automotive. He's recently joined us, and we're very excited to have him today to talk about some of the new products we're launching. And in fact, we have a big announcement today for the audience, so we're really excited about that. And Lucas Martinelli, who's a director of engineering on our data services team. Data services is kind of the lifeblood of our product, helps to maintain data across all of our services, from maps, navigation, search, etc. And so Lucas will talk to us a bit about how we make the map, how we maintain the map, and how that's important to making really good navigation products. And by way of introduction, my name is Ben Trusello. So I'm the VP for Business Development in APAC. I'm based in Singapore, so folks on the line today would like to get together for a cup of coffee, please reach out. I also happen to be our Chief Business Officer of a joint venture in Japan called Mapbox Japan. A quick introduction on Mapbox to get us started. So first, Mapbox has been around since 2013. If you've not heard of us, hopefully today will be a good step in that direction. We'd love to learn, teach you more about our products and services. For APAC, we have a growing team based in Singapore, sales and support primarily here. We have engineers, sales and support in China, in Shanghai and Beijing. And as I mentioned, we have a big joint venture with SoftBank in Tokyo that has sales support and some engineering as well. But we're a global team, as you can see represented today by Garrett and Lucas being on the line from US. So Mapbox, we like to pride ourselves on being the location or rather the platform for location. And as you'll learn today from my colleagues, we are built on all things AI. So for every user, every device that touches our map each day, the maps get better. So I'm excited for you to hear and learn more about exactly how that works. Mapbox was started on this idea of location is at the core of everything. We experience it every day, whether you know it or not, right? So whether you are in your car looking for a way around traffic, whether you are looking or waiting for your food to be delivered, whether you're walking around town looking for the nearest coffee shop, or whether you're actually doing some analysis of your business and wanting to know where's the nearest, what's the best place to establish my next retail location. Location and maps are everywhere. And Mapbox is the platform for those services. So we are first and foremost a developer-focused business. From the earliest days of Mapbox to today, we focus on building services and solutions for the developer. We like to think of ourselves basically in the same context of some of the other big platforms out there, from compute at AWS, to communication at Twilio, to e-commerce at Shopify, to payments at Stripe. Think about Mapbox as the location platform of the world. You can get started for free today if you sign up at mapbox.com and use most of our products, in fact, close to all of our products at no cost within a very liberal free tier. And so if you've used them, I'd love for you to reach out and tell us how you're using them and tell us more about the kinds of things that you're doing with our product. So as I mentioned earlier, Mapbox is about live updating AI maps. This flywheel is a critical component, and as you'll see from the data that we create and the way that powers services like navigation, to the way that we enhance and refine that and maintain that data through our data services, it's a critical component to making our maps better, whether that's creating the live traffic data that we have every day across the world, whether that's identifying new turn restrictions on a roadway that wasn't there yesterday. This flywheel effect is critical for keeping the maps up to date and live. That's powered by the millions of developers that use this every day, building tens of thousands of applications. We don't have a consumer application like some of the other mapping platforms in the world, but if we did, we'd be in the top 5 of the App Store because we have about 600 million monthly active users of the customers' products that use our maps every day, and it's those end users that help us improve this our platform by generating 2.1 billion weekly miles of data and over 700,000 updates to the map every single day. So it's that flywheel effect that makes our maps live and dynamic. We have a wide range of products for customers, from APIs and SDKs focused on mapping, navigation, and search, of course. And of course, if you are a government client, or you're a telecommunications customer, or you are wanting to keep your sensitive data on premise, we have services that power all of our cloud-based capability into an on-premise service. So basic fundamental components of the Mapbox platform: maps, search, navigation, and Atlas, which is our on-premise component. So today we're going to focus a lot on the navigation side of the business, and you'll see some cool developments that are coming. We also are all about design. In fact, my earliest days of encountering Mapbox was seeing some of the really cool products that were being built, where location was a component of a broader story that was being told. And I always noticed how powerful and beautiful the maps looked. So we built tools for the developer to make that easier, and to make the maps customizable, and to make the visualizations really, really important and effective. So Mapbox Studio is that product. If you're watching this, you can scan the QR code and actually access the studio with your account. And we give you control to every data layer that we power, and every data layer of data that you bring to our platform as well. We give you controls so that you can turn things on, turn things off, and create new visualizations right from this tool. It's essentially like the Photoshop for maps. When you do those updates, they get pushed out to all of your products, all of your applications that are powered by our SDKs or our APIs. So everything you do in Mapbox Studio becomes extended to your user base very, very quickly. So again, Mapbox is all about building essentially these great services for developers to build sophisticated applications. Three primary areas of industry and verticals that I think we pride ourselves in, and that we have great strengths. First is probably the longest history of our product in the market, which is in mobile and cloud. So giving full control of design, as I described, for building data visualization, building branded maps. So your map might look completely different than your competitor's map and have a completely different experience, and providing you with the tools to power that on web or mobile. To logistics, lots of very complicated use cases for logistics these days. Every minute, every second, every extra kilometer costs money. And so we provide tools that make logistics smarter, and we help to optimize those, whether it's a few trucks on the road to massive fleets, and providing all kinds of services within traffic, et cetera, to make last mile optimization more efficient. And in the last couple of years, we've really exploded, I guess you could say, in the automotive space. You've probably seen, hopefully, our announcement earlier about BMW powering some of the technology and navigation technology in some upcoming BMW models. And Garrett will talk a bit more about some of the other work that we're doing that will be really impressive for automotive manufacturers, both in four-wheel and two-wheeler today and in the future. But our customer base is very vast. From automotive, as I mentioned, but also business intelligence. If you've ever used Tableau and you've tried the map display or visualization, you're looking at Mapbox Maps. To ride hailing, powering different components of ride hailing, from back-end services for business intelligence to front-end services or user services for understanding the routes and the trips you've recently taken. To, of course, media. If you open the New York Times these days, if you open CNN and you see a map, it's going to be a Mapbox map. So there's a wide range of customers around the world that use this. In APAC, it's one of our fastest growing markets in the world. We have a wide range of customers in many of these categories. And you may have seen or experienced our maps inside of the applications that you use. A few examples: if you order things on Lazada and you look at the map to see where the service or where the product is being delivered, you'll see a Mapbox map. If you've used recently ComfortDelGro's recently launched Zig application for social mobility, you're seeing a Mapbox map in there as well. It doesn't stop there. It's travel OTA with Trip and C-Trip, and it's fitness and outdoors with applications like Keep, and logistics with customers and companies like Ninja Man. So we span a wide range of customers in the market. We'd love to learn more about use cases of some of you online in the future. In mobile and cloud, there's some really solid strengths that we have, whether that's building powerful social networking applications, whether you might use Snapchat, maybe your kids use Snapchat. There's a feature called the Snap Map. It's got to be the most exciting, impressive use of our map in the social experience. It provides content discovery, user engagement. It looks like no other map in the world. It's extremely performant. It loads incredibly quickly. If you haven't seen it on Snapchat, you should see it. It's inspiration for a lot of the other tools that consumers use and that developers build. Business intelligence, as I mentioned, Tableau, Domo, Microsoft Power BI, they all work with Mapbox today. Store locators, so if you are building out services for retailers and you want to show users the fastest way to your store, we are providing a wide range of services there today. And of course, we have a variety, not just of mapping technology, but also of data. You'll hear from Garrett on some of that data that goes into things like retail site selection. And fitness, again, big vertical for us, as many fitness apps today like Strava, All Trails, I mentioned Keep in China, use Mapbox to make the user experience fun, to see the routes that you've taken, to compete with your friends and your family. Today, you'll hear a lot of description of how our products are used in the navigation context, and especially within logistics. And so we have a wide range of services to make logistics smarter, as I mentioned, from computer vision, powering dashboard cameras, powering AR navigation, to building driver navigation applications with our Nav SDK. Garrett will spend a lot of time on that today, describing some really exciting news there, but basically providing the means to embed turn-by-turn navigation into your application, keeping the users in the app, keeping the app super sticky, and giving you controls over many aspects of the navigation to make it more efficient and better for your users to use. To route planning, etc., to managing metrics and monitoring fleets, and of course, doing things like delivery tracking. These are our strengths in the logistics space. A regional customer that I'm sure you've heard of, Coupang, is a good highlight of this in terms of how Mapbox products can be used to improve business efficiency. So Coupang Eats is one of the fastest growing. I think they're number one, number two right now in Korea in terms of food delivery. And as we all know, given the state of the world today, we all depend on food delivery almost daily. And so optimizing a platform that today has about 650,000 daily active users is critical. We help Coupang Eats by powering, using our Matrix API, the ability to match the delivery driver to the end user and to the restaurant order, ensuring that those orders get delivered in the most efficient and timely way. And what we found using our product is that we can improve the delivery of those services and scale with their business. I understand that Coupang Eats is finding deliveries being efficient by 2.5%, which is maybe not a big number, but can be essential at improving time and reducing costs at a scale like Coupang Eats. There's a tool that actually Mapbox recently acquired that you might want to check out. And the reason for that is it's a tool that provides many of the component parts of our navigation services today. It's called Straightaway. You can scan the QR code on the screen and actually download it from the Singapore App Store. Straightaway combines our optimization technology, our maps, as well as our navigation, all in one. And it gives, in the case of its user base, those in the logistics space, a complete end-to-end service in one app, from identifying their routes, optimizing their routes up to 500 addresses, and then actually creating turn-by-turn navigation in the application to make the routes the most efficient. So this is one example of a platform out there combining many of our services today. And as I mentioned, Mapbox is really scaling in automotive. I described the BMW announcement that we made earlier in the year, in which we will be powering in-vehicle navigation across BMW and Mini cars in the coming years. And that will be with our navigation platform, as well as our live maps. And so really, this is, I think, the first time in which Mapbox is creating a completely custom and also experience in the vehicle that feels like you expect it to, which is from mobile. And so BMW was the first. You'll see more examples today from the team around other automotive OEMs that we're winning and supporting in the market. But also Mapbox's roots actually come back to being a mission-driven organization. So our community team has done a lot of work across Asia Pac in the last few years, supporting efforts to address flooding issues in Jakarta, to providing expertise and guidance for folks building COVID relief campaigns. At its roots, Mapbox was driven around mission. And so I think there's a lot more that we can do to help out. So if you're from an NGO or if you're looking for ways in which you can partner with a location provider, let me know. We'd love to do more to help grow the community. So really, Mapbox is about defining the location operating system. We're built for developers. We're a full stack platform. So regardless of your need, we have a solution or a service for it. And our maps are live and updated using AI from the 600 plus million MAUs that are generated every single month by our end users. So I'll turn it over to Garrett here in a second to talk about our navigation products. But as I mentioned, I'm based in Singapore. Our team here is growing. If you're looking for something to do, or if you just want to talk about the work that you're doing in location and maps, please give me a shout. I'm always open to have a coffee with you. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. And hello, everybody. As Ben mentioned, joining not from Singapore, although some years ago I used to live there. And so this is a little bit of a walk down memory lane. And excited to share with you. Ben alluded actually to this at the beginning of the conversation, where today we are announcing the launch of our navigation SDK 2.0. As a release candidate. And you all are living a little bit in the future here, it being September 9th. And that is the official launch date. So I get to share that news with all of you first, which is really exciting. And want to anchor you a little bit on exactly what that is, how it works, and how it fits into the broader context of what Mapbox can enable for your organization. So if we go to the next slide, this is essentially a image that you can see in a video moving through what an implementation of the navigation SDK might look like for you. I think what's very exciting about this is that regardless of the form factor or location that you want to deploy navigation, be that in the dashboard of a luxury vehicle like a BMW, to the mobile phone that's sitting in your pocket, or perhaps that you might even be watching this presentation from, be it an iOS or an Android platform, you can deliver a custom navigation experience tailored to exactly what you want your customers or you yourself want to experience. What's really exciting about what we're launching today is that there are massive performance improvements in addition to new features and functionality. So with the shift from the 1.0 to the 2.0, we see a 40% faster rendering performance, which we all know the name of the game is speed, whether you're driving a vehicle from Dukes of Hazzards or otherwise. Speed is important, and we recognize that and we invest in that. We have a new routing engine, and we'll talk a little bit about what makes that so unique in the coming slides, but very excited to share that. Camera angle, in terms of how you are moving a user through an experience, is really, really important. And that's one of the features that we're most excited about launching to ensure that as a user is approaching a maneuver, as they navigate along their route, that they're really you have the power as a developer to really tailor what that experience looks like. Rendering capabilities specifically for navigation. And then something I think that's really exciting and helpful is the ability to highlight your location when you arrive at the destination. So all of this combined and so much more that you'll be able to check out on our website here very shortly really make up the new SDK that, again, you can embed a navigation experience in almost any digital format that you want. So if you go to the next slide, just to give you a sense of only a smattering of the capabilities that you can customize. from the arrival location to what is the information that you want to display, how do you want to display that, down to the specific icon of the location where you happen to be along that route execution. Not only being able to do fun things like customize it to the type of icon, as you can see here, we're putting a vehicle on the screen, but also being able to embed a lot more rich information into what that icon is displaying, right? And so you can see examples of being on route or off route. And then ultimately being able to truly customize the display to really surface up from that rich data layer that sits within the maps and sits within the routing intelligence, the information that's most pertinent to your user as you walk them through the navigation experience. And if we go to the next slide, what we'll highlight here is something that's really, really exciting for us. Now, I think in Singapore, everybody is almost always connected, but as you venture out beyond Singapore, there are many instances, and even on the island, instances where you lose connectivity. And it's really important to be able to have an offline navigation experience, because just because your mobile device or your car goes offline doesn't mean that your route stops. This new routing engine allows us to not only continue through the navigation experience, but also to re-optimize and reroute if you do get off route, all well offline. So something that we're particularly excited about. If you go to the next slide, what I want to do is just give you a little bit more of a grounding in terms of how does navigation fit within the broader portfolio of what Mapbox has to offer, right? It's not just a routing engine. You need to have so much more that surrounds it and supports it to truly enable that world-class experience that many of the brands that you saw earlier and that I've mentioned really come to rely on to deliver a navigation experience to their customers. And it really all starts with maps. As you heard from Ben, our roots and our foundation as a company really started in maps. But that's not enough, right? Just to be able to see the world, you have to actually be able to query it and understand it. And that's where search comes in. Navigation gives you the ability to now take that intelligence that you're capturing through search and make it actionable and actually move people, goods, packages, vehicles throughout the physical world. We ultimately, and Ben gave you an example of this, have applications of our own, although less focused on what we would all think of as a consumer application. Although if you captured that QR code, I would encourage you to check out straight away. Free to use and can give you a sense of the types of capabilities that Mapbox can deliver. That's a purpose-built logistics application. But you can imagine whether you're thinking about trying to help your users route to a parking location, a restaurant, getting home from a day at work, you can tailor your application, your navigation experience to whatever that might be. Ultimately, none of that matters without having a strong data layer that sits below and supports that. And as Ben mentioned, we have this concept of a flywheel, and Lucas will get a lot more into how is that data actually generated and what is that self-rejuvenating mapping infrastructure that we've created as Mapbox to ensure that we have the most accurate and up-to-date data to support the experiences that we're delivering through the portfolio. So what I want to do next, if you go to the next slide, is just give you some examples of recent launches that we've gone through and recent improvements that we've made in our portfolio. On average, and this is just the underlying infrastructure and componentry that we have in the market today, we're shipping about 100,000 updates every single day to make sure that the information that we are displaying, whether that's information about the map, whether that's information about road closures, whether that's new points of interest to search, we have a continuous refresh cycle of the data that's powering that. And that's incredibly important to understand why that matters. And we'll go through that as we go through these slides. One of the things that I'm most excited about for our maps portfolio is that we recently launched a true 3D terrain experience. And what that's doing is really shortening the step that you take from the physical world that we all live in to the digital world that I think, admittedly, we also sometimes live in, but being able to close that gap and start to deliver what's much closer to a true digital twin of the actual environment that we are all inhabiting. And so having that 3D capability really brings that to life. And you can see some examples of that in the imagery that's being walked through on the slide. You can see, you've seen a number of the customers that we work with day in and day out, whether those are global brands, local brands, and so forth, really taking strong advantage of that ability to do that 3D rendering. If you go to the next slide, this is something, again, kind of coming back to this continuous refresh and continuously pushing the boundaries of what's the type of data that we're surfacing up for our customers to make sure that our customers, and specifically our customers' customers, right? Our job is to really enable developers and businesses to deliver the best geolocation experience possible to their customers. And so with search, what's really exciting there is the investments that we've made around rich data to be able to truly surface up all the information that might be necessary for a user to understand when you're looking for something on a map. How do you make that as rich and engaging and an immersive experience as possible by portraying as much data as possible? And so we source across thousands of different data sources to make sure that we're providing the greatest coverage from a data perspective, and you can see how that might surface up. This is actually taken from a screenshot from an application that we'll talk about here in a second that we launched for GM, actually doing what I think is the world's first over-the-air update of a navigation system to vehicles that had already left the factory. And you can see the types of experiences that we can enable with that. But before we start talking about the application that does that, we'll go to the next slide. And what this is really starting to do, and this is something that I'm incredibly excited about for Mapbox and really for the automotive industry, is our first step in the direction of building out a true ADAS platform. We call it Mapbox Horizon. It essentially predicts the driver's behavior and pulls in the relevant information about the road network and the road graph that lays ahead to surface up what we believe and what the algorithms portray will be the most relevant information for someone as they're navigating their path. What's really exciting about this is that it goes beyond actually having a plotted out route, and you can pull this up in what we call free drive mode to be able to simply navigate the roadways, but always have contextual awareness around what's actually coming up and lays in the future for you. You can see a number of different customers that are taking advantage of it. And what's exciting is that it's not just limited to the automotive industry, right? You can certainly see some really world-class automotive brands on the page. But what we've done is to really start democratizing and making accessible a lot of the advanced features that used to really only be available within the automotive market, and making that available to a much broader swath of the market space. And you can see some really terrific consumer brands as we see what's on the page here. So if you go to the next slide, this is Mapbox Vision. And so what this is really a very exciting way of navigating the world, of creating a much richer understanding of the world around you. It's an SDK, works for iOS, Android, Linux, very similar to our other SDKs. You can deploy them in a vehicle, on a mobile device, on a dash cam. And if you think about the foray and the investments and the moves that we're making into the ADAS space, the Vision SDK enables that as well. This is essentially what allows a vehicle to truly understand the environment through which it is navigating, whether that's doing object detection of different types, whether it's a car, a person, a bicycle, sign recognition, and really understanding what it is that's coming up from a roadway perspective in terms of a navigation requirement that might have to be taken. Segmentation from a semantic perspective, lane detection, depth map, really taking a single sensor, a camera or video, and turning that into a multi-sensor device that allows a vehicle to truly understand the environment through which it's navigating. You can see some of the world-class companies that we're working with there for multiple different types of use cases, whether it's driver safety, or whether it's mobile navigation with our augmented reality navigation capability that you can see at the bottom of the screen. All of these applications and solutions that I'm walking you through are available in multiple languages and have been globalized, as you can see from the text example there. And then finally, if we kind of go to the next slide and end on, the application layer, we talked about straightaway earlier, and I alluded to this when we were talking about search. This is Mapbox Dash, and Mapbox Dash is a purpose-built application that sits in the head unit of a vehicle to deliver what we believe to be the world's most, formative and from our mapping experience and navigation experience, what we believe is world-class and leading navigation experience to just about any automotive manufacturer that's out there that wants to have something that allows you to integrate immediately maps, search, navigation, take advantage of Mapbox Horizon, and put all of those features into an easily consumed application that still allows you to surface up the ability to customize and optimize that experience that you're delivering for your customer. And so we'll actually get into here in a second in terms of everything that can be surfaced up through that navigation experience, from live traffic to voice commands, voice searching, music. If you want to have Spotify pre-integrated, that's great because it's there, and even down to being able to do lane level guidance. The ability for auto manufacturers to adopt this and shorten that R&D cycle and truly accelerate time to value is really astounding. We're able to do, and we'll stay away from names for half a second here, but for an auto manufacturer, from conversation to go live, to be able to ship a brand new navigation experience in the head unit of 18 months, really shortening that innovation cycle for the automotive industry is something that we're incredibly excited about doing. And being able to do that through Dash just accelerates it even faster. And if you go to the next slide, what we'll go through in the next here are really starting to talk about, and Lucas is going to do this a lot more justice as we talk about how the maps are made and where the data comes from and what that refresh truly looks like. But I'll talk about two that are actually not only feeds into and enhancements into the broader portfolio that we just went through, but also data sets that are available to others who may not want to have an SDK, who may not want to have that through an API, who may not want to have that, the need for an application, but still will benefit from the use cases that these really valuable data sets will support. And so traffic data is probably the one that we are almost all familiar with in terms of, as we look at maps to help us navigate the world, and hopefully it's a Mapbox one, you're very used to seeing these color coding of lines and being able to understand what are real-time road conditions indicating as it relates to the experience that you're about to have and how long it's going to take you to ultimately reach your objective in terms of where that route is taking you. And so every day we've got millions and millions of drivers and users that are out there that are logging hundreds of millions of miles every single day, allowing us to really deliver a very rich context in terms of what's happening to that user as they're navigating through the world. The traffic right now is updated every 5 minutes. That time to update it continues to be squeezed and continues to get closer and closer to real time, which is an incredibly exciting area for us to continue to invest in. And this traffic data also enables a really, really accurate ETA to where most ETAs, when leveraging our traffic data, are to within a 10% of actual. So if you think about that, if you're taking a 20-minute trip, you're going to be within 2 minutes, which for most applications is fairly sufficient. But it's not just traffic data that we leverage and use, and that others outside of Mapbox leverage and use. If we go to the next slide, we'll talk about our movement data set. And this one in particular, and we recently benchmarked this off an economist data set and did a comparison versus our competition. And we can firmly stand here and say that we believe that we have the most comprehensive global movement data set that is also extremely privacy forward in the world. And you can imagine who the companies are that we benchmark ourselves against. And again, we feel very confident standing here and sharing that statement with all of you. You saw the 600 million monthly users. Ben alluded to that, and it grows every single day. But what's really, really valuable that we're capturing to be able to surface up how this movement data is truly capturing the zeitgeist of what's happening in the world is that in any given day, we're capturing over 20 billion different live location updates and feeding that into this movement data set that again is valuable for us as we're building out our capabilities, but also maybe valuable for you as a standalone data set. And it's very interesting to see, we're talking a lot about navigation, but these tools, and we'll actually shift and talk about the true value of the portfolio and the platform here in a moment. But these tools can really enable just about any use case you can imagine. I'll give you an example for the movement data here is as the hospitality industry is coming out of and I think bouncing back much more quickly in certain geographies than other, being able to correlate movement data through the world with a rebound in the hospitality industry is really helpful from a planning perspective for many of our customers who are in that industry. So it's not just navigation where these capabilities can help you. Obviously, this conversation is primarily about navigation, and I am a little bit jaded, or at least opinionated, that it's the most exciting part of the portfolio. But there's just a tremendous amount that sits within Mapbox that can help enable just about any use case you can imagine. And so if you flip to the next slide, Ben, what I want to do next is kind of walk you through how we take this portfolio of components that we just talked about, right, across maps, across search, across navigation, different applications, the various data layers, and how those different building blocks really come together across data sets, APIs, SDKs to really enable very compelling use cases within the logistics industry. And you can see some of the world-class and world-leading, certainly not comprehensive. If you happen to be from a company that's not on here and using Mapbox, we thank you. And it's not a slight by any stretch of the imagination. But what you can see here, and thinking about it really from an end-to-end perspective in terms of what do logistics companies care about? What are the use cases that are really hard to do today that we're continuously working with our customers to try to help optimize the types of outcomes and the types of experiences they're able to deliver for not only their end consumers, but also their employees. So that starts with route planning. You saw some of the examples of the components that are within the portfolio. I won't go through in the totality of the different building blocks that are available today to be able to piece together and build out, again, one of the things that's truly valuable, actually lots of things that are truly valuable about Mapbox. One of the things that's most unique about Mapbox is the ability to tailor the experience that you demand for your customers, for your application, for your use cases. And by having these building blocks that are put together in unique ways to enable that exact experience that you're looking for, you're able to truly differentiate yourself in the marketplace. And so route planning, where companies like Coupang and Belkacar are using components from these building blocks to enable that route planning. Driver navigation, you saw the use case earlier from DPD. FedEx is another big user of how are you actually doing turn-by-turn navigation to deliver that outcome, to deliver that service, to deliver that package to the customer that's waiting on you. How are you tracking that delivery status throughout the ecosystem that you're operating? And it all starts with what's actually being able to deliver that turn-by-turn navigation that leverages some of the components that you can see here. Where it gets really interesting, though, is, and this ties a little bit into the operator dashboard, it gets really interesting when you start to think about if I've planned a route and now I've got a driver and a vehicle and a series of shipments that are en route, but the world is changing. It's constantly changing, right? We just went through some of those data sets that show how the world is changing. We're thinking about traffic. How are people moving? What are the different types of incidents that are popping up within the road network? It's always changing, and the route should also change with it. So we enable real-time re-optimization of that route, regardless of number of stops, to take into account the changing dynamics and scenarios that are happening, that are standing really between the driver, the package, and the end consumer. The operator dashboard, obviously, everybody always wants to know what's happening on the other side. Being able to enable in real time and power logistics operators to be able to manage the current deployments is incredibly important. And again, the building blocks that Mapbox has really come into play and enable that and bring it to life. And then delivery tracking, I mentioned earlier, so I won't belabor that point. And then the fleet camera, which I think really starts to get at an incredibly important KPI around driver safety. And this is true whether you're talking about logistics, you're talking about automotive, you're talking about driving your kids to school, right? The ability to really understand and sense, you leveraging the Vision SDK that we talked about earlier, about real-time awareness about what's happening around the vehicle, and really driving and improving that, in this case, I guess, logistics driver safety KPI, we can enable that too. So again, I'll just leave you with the thought that for Mapbox, the true power of the platform and the portfolio that we just went through is the ability to take those building blocks and configure the solution that you demand, that your customers require. I think is quite unique. And with that, I'll hand it over to Lucas, who will walk us through how we curate that experience for you.
Thank you, Garrett. So as you've seen, we have maps, search, navigation, and under all of that is the data that goes into. And so I want to share with you how we create that data and what our unique advantages are for entering new markets because we collect telemetry. And at the core of our map is really the living map. And so we build the best tools for developers, right, to build their rideshare app, to build their delivery app that stands out most from the competition, to attract users. These users generate location telemetry as they search for something, as they move, as they deliver a package. And that data, we have very great ways of chopping that up, completely de-anonymize it, and use that data to improve our map, which then, in fact, attracts more developers, to get more users, to get more data, to improve our map further. And where this is really important is especially in the Asia-Pacific region, where we see developers picking up our apps, the 45,000 developers we have. We therefore have amazing telemetry coverage to expand into these markets. And so what we've built is really this living map. And I'll tell you a little bit how this works, because I've worked on this a lot and it's very exciting. There's two components to it. One is you use data vendors and crowdsource and open data sets. And that's the mapping data you have. But that's not enough to stay up to date as the world changes. You will need mechanisms to update that faster. And that's where Mapbox leverages its machine learning and telemetry collection abilities. So what Mapbox does is we leverage open and crowdsourced data sets. We go and we buy specific data sets in regions we expand from surveyors and aggregators, and we use machine learning data sets. Then we combine all these data sources together. There's no single data source on Earth that's good enough that you can just use. And we invested a lot into building something we call conflation engine to take these different data sets, combine them in the best possible output, and that gives you your first basis for the map. Doing that gives you a pretty decent map, but it doesn't stay up to date easily. That's where our corrections come in. So we use 4 methods there that I'll dive in: computer vision, location telemetry, imagery extraction, driver feedback, that all create data sets that go into that live correction layer that's applied on top of this map. So to give you an example, right, in Singapore, you might have a completely mapped road network. Every street is there. But you might have turn restrictions missing and turn lanes that are crucially important as you navigate. And you wouldn't get that from any vendor. There's no vendor that sells it in Singapore. But because of our methods with telemetry and their imagery extraction, we create these data sets and we add those on top of our vendors. Combine that daily and deploy it to our APIs, and it's available for you to use. And that happens every single day. And so to give you some sense of scale, we have over 2,000 data sources that get combined every day. If you look at all our partners, we have 200,000 contributors a month. So you can see how much of a company we need to build to reach that scale of mapping. We have 20 billion sensor readings, so that's someone searching something, someone arriving somewhere. And all of that results into 700,000 map updates a day. That means like slight adjustments to a road. It could be a new road, a new building. There's 700,000 of these changes happening every day that we validate for quality. And so now I'll talk through these different building blocks. The first one is conflation. Then we'll talk about these 4 machine learning techniques that we use. So conflation is that art of combining data. And give you an example, addresses is a very good one. You might have an open data vendor. You might have an open data set, and you might buy address data from someone, and then you might have some regional specific ones. So now you need to really figure out the best address for getting good deliveries. You take those, you compare them all with each other. You build this knowledge graph of which addresses might be the same. Then you link them to the road network, so you know which road belongs to which address. Then you consider the parcels. You add more geospatial context to figure out which addresses are in the same parcel. Then you take in a building data set. You take in telemetry. And in the end, you can determine which is the best possible address to go to. And you've also in that process linked an address to the building, to the parcel, to the road, to the zip code that allows developers to access that rich information. And so that's how we take all these addresses, combine them into the best possible delivery location that then goes into our map. And that's conflation where we invest a lot into. Now that's not enough. Now come our 4 pillars that we use to create new data on top. So the first one is computer vision. Garrett showing you a bit, we have industry-leading ways of extracting signs, of segmenting what you can see with a car, what is a car, what are lanes on a phone. Doesn't have to be sophisticated. And we leverage that to create data. I'll give you one example. So a good example is speed limits. So you might have some speed limits from vendors, and we both run our machine learning models on imagery we acquire, on our Vision SDK, on cars that send us that directly. And so you do sign detection as one example. So you find the speed limit sign, but then you need to have multiple sources and you triangulate where that speed limit sign is. Then you chop up the road network into which speed limit applied for which segment, and then you add that on top of the vendor data you have. And I give you an example. The vendor data that you see here in the US, but it could be any market, before and after we apply our proprietary data. And you can see it improves by up to 200 to 400% in terms of coverage. So that's why we have like complete speed limit coverage. The other comes in handy is in Mapbox Dash. As you see, you get warnings when you go too fast or how fast you should drive. So that's how you use computer vision to use the eyes on the road that we have deployed in our cars to find signs and other objects, map them back onto the road network, and then improve the road network that's accessible for everyone. The second pillar is our location telemetry. We have over 45,000 apps sending us telemetry, and that's crucial. You don't want to be reliant on only one app, but there's very, very few companies in the world that have that wealth of location telemetry that you need to create more data sets. And if you look, we have truly global coverage, complete coverage. You can see we're especially strong in the APAC region because we have so many users there and so many developers. And that's both leveraged for having excellent traffic, great ETAs that you can buy as well, that movement product that Garrett showed us, but it also allows us to create more data. So I'll give you another example of one technique we use to create data from telemetry. So in this image, you can see where users accelerate and decelerate at an intersection. Based on that, you can figure out on which intersections people turn which way. So you might find, oh, this intersection, people never turn left. And that indicates that there's a left turn restriction. So our algorithm finds that based on this telemetry and creates that turn restriction. And so even though you might not have a data vendor or complete coverage in Singapore that you can buy on turn restrictions, we can come in and based on our telemetry, create data and fill in gaps to really provide an excellent navigation experience. The third method is aerial imagery extraction. You might have seen this quite a lot with buildings in a lot of mapping providers, but we take it a step further. So we don't just do this for buildings and roads and water. We use it for way more advanced things as well. So one very innovative thing we've done is figuring out where to turn based on aerial imagery. And here you can see one of our machine learning techniques where we find where is the line broken, where does it stop, what signs are where, and we detect all this. We build groups, and based on that, we can identify individual lanes. The result of that is that we can improve lane coverage dramatically and go into new market and add turn lanes so you know exactly which lane to go to as you turn. So the next animation shows you a little bit more in detail that technique. So you take that imagery, you find the different zones, you identify individual lanes, and then you turn it into where can you turn where based on the signs that you see. And all of that allows you to, in Dash, to know which lane to get into, as seen in the next screenshot. And again, you see without Mapbox corrections and with, and because of that, you get detailed turn lane instructions, which lane to go into. It's a very crucial feature for me. I always get it in the wrong lane. So I'm very thankful for this one. The fourth one is our user feedback, using what users do as they arrive and deliver a package when they give us feedback. We have over 10,000 users that give us active feedback every day. And so that could be, hey, I had a problem as I arrived here. I couldn't understand your route. In the middle, you see where we routed someone to the back of a mall, but they actually just continued straight to the entrance of the mall. Our algorithm finds that, flags that to our team, and that means we are able to then figure out, oh, if you search for that address, it should actually go inside the mall, map the parking within the mall. And how we can do that is not only using our imagery, but also using our telemetry. You see on the right a map where we see where people drive in that mall to be able to map it. And so if you give us feedback today, lands in our system in 10 minutes, we look at that, guaranteed to resolve it in 2 days, and it's live for you. That really allows us that if you as a delivery driver have trouble delivering a package, the next time you drive, it's guaranteed fixed. And I give you an example here. At the end of the trip, we always ask, did it go well or not? And you see this cost center here, and the user had trouble finding it. And so we can go in and we can see the movement, where people move, where the entrances are, and that the main entrance is in the middle here. That's the same data set we use to improve that data, to calculate ETAs, to allow someone like Pepsi to find which locations are busiest, and we're reopening due to COVID, and they should prioritize first. We take this one step further, and we automatically detect routing anomalies. For example, places where people often get rerouted, maybe because of construction, or maybe because it's a very difficult turn to take. And so our machine learning algorithms takes all this data. You can see an intersection here. And that allows us in our next generation routing engine to actually learn the best path based on user behavior. So we see where users have trouble following instructions or don't follow them and automatically adjust them. And so I hope that gave you a little bit of an insight how we use these 4 techniques to create data from our telemetry and imagery with our machine learning computer vision algorithms, and that we as Mapbox create proprietary and add on top. These techniques work in all markets, right? And I think that's the exciting part, where we can go into new market, apply these techniques to create new data, and be better than what a vendor provides in this geography. And so that's computer vision, detecting signs, mapping it to it, using telemetry to find out where people turn around, how fast they drive. You can then even triangulate these different sources to have full confidence that something that people drive indeed that speed. You do advanced machine learning extraction, imagery, and you look where users go to improve and make sure they never have a bad experience twice. Thank you. And that's really our flywheel. That computer vision, allocation, telemetry, imagery extraction, driver feedback, produce our corrections, we apply on top of our conflated map. We deploy that every day. And these are APIs you can use. You can use SDKs that call those APIs. If you do that, you will always have access to the daily latest map coverage, which is absolutely crucial if you build an application. The rule changes daily, be that construction, a restaurant closing, a road changing, and with Mapbox, you get that.
Thanks, Lucas. Thanks, Garrett. Lucas, I see a question in the Q&A from Sri related to providing data updates in 2 hours. Take a look at that Q&A. I think it would be helpful if maybe you could expand on this point. Sri's also asking
Excellent
us
point.
questions about about data sources in APAC and India. Yeah.
I'll expand. So what I'm telling you is the more traditional, like static sources, like the road network, how many lanes it has, where to go. Accidents in a road, we have 5-minutely updates. So that's like incidents, where did an accident, a construction happen. So there we have 5-minutely updates. And that's very important.
And to that point, Lucas, I guess the fact of our strategy to acquire incident data, right, is a big part of the data strategy too.
Absolutely. And you see that's where our platform comes in. We can acquire multiple vendors to combine them to provide the best possible incident coverage, best possible address or road network coverage in locations we expand into.
Great. Other questions from the audience? Thanks for that question, Sri. No? Okay. Well, I guess thanks so much, Azar and the GeoWorks team for today. I hope the audience learned a bit about Mapbox. I see one more question coming in. Do your developers sell back their data to you? It's an interesting question.
I can answer that.
Take that one, Lucas. Sure.
We're huge privacy advocates here at Mapbox, and if you look at our product, especially Mapbox Movement, there's no way you know anything about the individual. Nothing on our servers ties back to a user. So developers don't sell us their data. As they use our products, we get completely anonymized data, and that's part of them helping us make the map better for them to improve how they can use us. And in no stage we ever know who the driver is, where they live, where they go. We chop this up into these like 3-minute sections that we store anonymized on our servers. And that's very exciting to me, that if you compare that to Apple or Google, we have the most privacy forward mapping platform that is out there.
And there's one other I guess angle to that question, which is first, as Lucas describes, related to the telemetry that we collect, which is anonymized and aggregated from the users. The other angle to this is as a developer, you may have your own proprietary data that you'd like to visualize or display on the map or integrate into the map itself. We didn't discuss deeply today a tool that we have called Mapbox Tiling Service, or MTS. That service allows you to basically bring your geospatial data, transform it, and actually render it on the map in vector tile format, making that accessible and available to your end users through all of our APIs and SDKs. In that example as well, we don't have access to that. We don't use that data for other sources or for other customers. That remains the exclusive access of that particular developer based on their Mapbox account. So in all cases, whether we're collecting the telemetry from the SDK or whether the developer is bringing the data and integrating it into the map itself, it remains the proprietary data of that end user, or it is anonymized and aggregated, so we can attribute it to a specific end user. Great. I see a question there about who do we buy data from. There's a number of sources on that list that Lucas shared in his slides. You can take a look. A good example of that, for example, would be Zenrin, a premier data provider in Japan, for which we power a lot of our maps and our search there. But we have a wide range of data sources. You can also find that at mapbox.com/about, I believe, where we describe some of the data sources that we have leveraged today. Very good.
Good. I think that's all the questions that we have. So Ben, who can we contact if we have any further questions or clarifications from the team?
Absolutely. I would definitely encourage folks to reach out to me if you have any questions. If you'd like to learn more about the products or services, if you'd like to sit down and have a coffee and talk about what you're building and where you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and my team here in Singapore.
Great. So with that, thank you so much, Ben, Garrett, and Lucas, for this wonderful presentation. For the audience out there, do stay tuned to the rest of the program for SgGeoFest, and do attend our webinars for the next coming days and next week as well. Ben, thank you so much. Thank you, Garrett, and thank you, Lucas.
Thank you, Azar.
Thank you.
It's been a
Have a
pleasure.
good day. Bye-bye.